On today's episode, we sit down with Martina Kelades. Martina grew up in Minas, but now lives in Cole Harbour. After initially attending university to gain an arts degree, Martina decided to pursue other avenues of education and attended NSCC for their Human Services program. After graduating, she became a Personal Development Counsellor, helping others get past barriers, primarily related to mental health, to succeed in life. Martina began to recognize that she herself was dealing with mental health-related issues and decided to start an initiative that focuses on mental health promotion. Now Martina is beginning the next chapter of her journey with Life Out Loud, a professional and specialized service used to expand conversations related to mental health and wellness. Listen in to hear it all.
I was the same old me, with the same old blues. I was the same old me, with the same old blues. I was the same old me, with the same old blues. I was the same.
All right, we're back for another episode of Brand New View, joined once again by my co-host, Ben Brammer. How are things going, Ben?
Excellent, thank you. How about you?
Things are good. Appreciate you asking. Tonight we are joined by Martina Kelades. How you doing, Martina?
Hey, good. How are you guys?
Very excited to have you.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
excited to
we're
be here.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. Short little story. You were kind of the first guest we had on our radar. You were suggested almost a year ago.
I feel so incredibly special.
Here we are
I
now.
really do.
You should feel special. No, I'm just joking. So you were you grew up in the Valley. Also our first Valley guest. New Minas, to be more specific.
Shopping capital.
Down to New Minas.
One of the greatest malls in existence.
Yeah. Soccer mecca.
Oh yes. The the birthplace of
Soccer
soccer
capital.
Oh,
in
yes.
the world, or something like that.
Something like that,
Some
yeah.
crazy
Nova
claim.
Scotia has a couple of those, right?
Hockey, soccer.
Hockey,
We
soccer.
invented everything. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in the Valley?
Oh, my. Well, from what I can remember. I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. What are you like? I'm 70 years old.
You know what? The Valley is a great place to be raised. I mean, it was very low key. My childhood was a great childhood. My dad actually is from North Preston, and so when he met my mom, who was from the Valley, they settled there and decided they were going to raise their children, their family in the Valley. So, yeah, I've had a pretty low key, childhood and upbringing.
Small town.
Everyone knows
vibe.
one another,
Oh yeah.
That's kind of the part I don't miss right now as an adult.
Fair.
I enjoy
Very
living
fair.
in the city and, like going to the grocery store and taking 5 minutes to pick up a few things as opposed to an hour and a half and, talking to everyone, which I don't mind talking to people, but it's just like...
It's nice to be able to disappear every now and then.
Absolutely.
Kind of,
Yeah.
float under the radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I enjoy going back to the Valley to visit my family there. It's interesting because when I go back, I don't see as many people as I thought I would, especially from school. Like a lot of us have kind of dispersed all over, all over the world. But growing up in the Valley was a great experience, and it's a very great part of the beginning of where I am today, because it just kind of taught me those lessons around, the small town vibe and like connecting with people. My parents were very much about, volunteering and, helping out in different areas.
That's one thing about small town. I mean, there are some negatives to everyone knowing your name, but the positive is it's a nice close-knit community where you can count on one another. Yeah, which is sweet.
Yeah, and my parents are very well known in the Valley, especially my dad. Everyone's like, "Oh, Bobby," and my dad, like, growing up, he would come to my elementary school, and you know how you had like the hot lunch orders. He would come on certain days, like when it was like cheeseburgers from McDonald's. He would come on. I would order an extra cheeseburger, and he would come have lunch with me. And then in middle school, I went to Evangeline Middle School, and he would come and like play bump in the gym. You know the game basketball. Yeah. So he would play with like some of my guy friends and friends before school would start, and he was just very, very much involved. And then in high school, I was kind of like, Dad, I'm too cool for that.
Yeah. I need to back off.
Yeah,
buddy.
like
Drop me off like a kilometer away, and I'll just walk the rest.
right, exactly. But no, looking back, I'm just like, I'm very grateful for my upbringing. One of the things, though, I guess came, later on when I was in university. I wrote a paper about my experience growing up in the Valley, in a predominantly white community. When I was growing up, I don't recall too many Black families, except for my own family and some other small communities like Gibson Woods and some other communities in around. But it was always interesting because I was talking about, I guess your own identity and how you, identify with the cultures and the groups around you. And I always remember thinking, I never really faced any racism growing up, but like looking back, it was like, I am a Black child. I'm a Black girl in like a school where there's like maybe a few others. I remember my first time where there was another Black girl in my class. It was grade 6, and it was a middle school, and so there was this merger of other like feeder schools, and I remember coming home from school and I was like, Mom, there's another Black girl in my school. And she looks like me and she has the same kind of hair as me. And it was like, it was such a monumental moment because it was, you just really sometimes long for, people look like you or, kind of have that similar
relatability.
identity. Yeah.
Something you can identify with a little easier.
Right. Mm-hmm. But it was never like an issue growing up. It was just like once I saw someone else, I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, it was kind of like that thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't really something you thought about until it came to the forefront. And you're like, oh, okay.
Right.
And there is something more to this.
Yeah. Yeah, but there was never any issues.
That's good.
Which was wonderful, and which,
That's good. You
I
hear
really
that, New
did live-
Minas? No issues.
Yeah, you're doing great.
we haven't started about New Minas yet. No.
But no, I really did grow up in a great community, and the Valley is my home. I've always said that I'm going to move to the city once I graduated. It was like, I'm getting up out of here. There's nothing to do. But the Valley is a beautiful place, and especially in the summertime, in the fall,
yeah.
I do love going back and going home and just being like in a slower pace of life. But the traffic is terrible. Commercial Street's awful.
Yeah. Hey, they put some roundabouts in. They're getting there.
Yeah, I suppose.
But it's so true. It's really nice to just kind of unwind and take a break from this fast-paced city life style that we've got going on right now.
Yeah.
It's nice to... And another thing, when you're out there, is so much more nature that you can be around. And I'm one who definitely would say that there's healing involved when you put yourself in nature and take time to appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm very much about finding peace in nature. I love beaches, and living in Cole Harbour, I often go to Lawrencetown as that's my grounding place. Just even in the winter, I remember there's a rainy day and I was just feeling really stressed and overwhelmed. And I'm like, I just have to go see the ocean. And I put on my rubber boots, and stepped out in the freezing cold.
Yeah.
But just grounding myself in the sand was, such a,
very powerful.
That rumble,
healing
the tide.
moment. Yeah.
It's super calming. Like I can remember when my mom was here to visit one time. Shout out, Mom. I was having a little, I think it was just a rough day. I don't think it was like a rough week or anything like that. But I said, come on, we're getting in the car. And she was like, where are we going? I said, we're going to go grab coffee. And we're going to head out to Lawrencetown and just sit there and watch the waves roll in. And we did it peacefully. There wasn't much said. And then when we were leaving, she's like, I think I needed that. And I was like, that was for me. But it's true. I mean, I found a lot of peace in that moment. It's nice to just chill in nature, take it all in.
Absolutely. Which, makes me think, and I used to think when I was younger that I was going to move far away too. And I don't know if I could leave Nova Scotia. Like, I've had friends who have gone out west for work, and many of them have come back. It's just like, the ocean air and just feeling that kind of nature all around you. There's something to be said, as to why people always come back.
Definitely. It's, I always say Halifax in particular, it's kind of nice size. I don't know how long that's going to last, essentially, especially
True.
because we're growing at such a fast rate at this point. But it's not too big, but it's not too small.
Yeah.
And there's just still so much character to it, but we still have the fast pace, the city lifestyle, the technology, everything like that. But that East Coast playground, that's what I think of.
I love that.
I think of Nova Scotia and the surrounding areas.
Yeah, you don't think concrete jungle when you think of Halifax. You
No.
think just big enough city, but you can get, north to south or east to west in 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well,
It's-
unless there's an incident on the bridge.
Or if it's raining.
Pothole,
Or if it's raining.
traffic.
Pothole.
If it's raining.
Coming soon.
No one can
Rivers
drive in
podcast.
this city while it's raining.
Unbelievable.
So true.
It's so
Yeah.
true.
But we really do have a beautiful city.
What kind of things are you interested in growing up, Martina?
Oh, well, I was the only child growing up for 10 years. And then I've always
Wow,
wanted...
You're holding it down for a while.
I was. And I've always wanted a sibling, like my cousin, who was still very close with me. She had a couple siblings, and I was always kind of like, oh, I want a brother and a sister, like my cousin does. And but 10 years my parents waited. I call that the babysitter's plan. As I was a built-in babysitter.
Smart.
10 years old, 11, 13, I was like, I'm going to hang out with my friends. No, you're going to stay home and watch your siblings. Not all the time, but it gave me great skill in terms of having that child care experience early. But growing up, it's funny because I remember playing with my stuffed animals, and I thought, I guess maybe I would be a teacher in some form. Like I would have all my stuffed animals lined up and give them tests, and you find ways to be creative when you're an only child. I would mark the tests, and I would give lectures to my stuffed animals.
Does this sound like you, Mark?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mark's an only child.
You're the
as
only
well.
child,
too,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not as well. He is an only child. You were for 10 years. Yeah, I
Yes,
understand what you mean.
I am not now. I have a wonderful sister and brother, whom I love very, very much.
Good save. No.
No, they're they're my pride and joys. But yeah, so I was often, playing on my own. My mom worked full time, and my dad worked shift work at Michelin. And so he had more flexibility in, his days. We would go out and, just go for bike rides. My mom mentioned how people would call her at work and would be like, yeah, I saw Bobby and Martina biking down to Acadia University. So we bike from New Minas, one end of, the far end of Minas, closer to Kempville, and bike down to Acadia. He'd play basketball. I'd sit on the sidelines and play with my Barbies. And it's funny because some of the guys he would play with, I've talked to recently, they're like, yeah, I remember playing basketball with your dad, and you would be playing with your dolls. And whenever the guys were off the court and were on the bench, they would come and play. And
That's great.
and then it was always fun because then afterwards, my dad would have me do take shots from the foul line, and I would win money. He would give me money, $1 for each shot or something like that, or 50 cents. I can't remember, but I don't remember walking with a whole lot of money. So probably, Yeah, I probably missed a lot of those, but
That's what I was going to say. I see
I wouldn't
it.
have made a dime. So
Yeah, I'm not so great at that either.
yeah. But like, you know, I have really strong memories of that, like that, and playing with, you know, my cousin, and you know, staying involved in like extracurricular activities. Always in camps, summer camps, and yeah, there's lots
A lot of
to
outdoor
do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But
And what about
Yeah,
in the
it's great.
classroom? Anything spark your interest?
that's a good question. I think I was more of like a social butterfly. Like I enjoy like hanging out with people. I don't recall like special classes per se.
Like Ben and myself, kind of went to school to talk to friends and keep up appearances more than anything.
I love lunch breaks.
Right? They were the best. Recess. Oh, it made my favorite show too.
Oh yeah.
Come high, yeah, right. TJ. So come high school, did you have an idea of what you may have wanted to do afterwards, or sort of a life plan coming into there?
Not really. But you know what? Looking back, I was thinking, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to have that figured out. Like I remember grade 11 when they start talking about, okay, you know, you got to pick your courses wisely because, you know, after that it's going to be university but I didn't really put much thought into that piece. And then grade 12, it's like, okay, so now we're getting a little bit closer. What am I going to do? I'll just go to university because, you know, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I think too, like my parents were always they always wanted me to do well anyway. But I think there was this extra pressure based on my ethnicity, you know, being Black, maybe, you know, that there might be additional barriers to, you know, achieving some of the things I want to achieve. I could be making that up, but I mean, I do recall, you know, some of those conversations around, you know, you really have to strive to be the best. And I actually received a scholarship through the Black Educators Association for university entrance scholarship. And I was like, yeah, so I'm going to go to university. and I chose St. Mary's because I was told that it was kind of like high school, but like, you know, a little bit bigger than high school. So I thought, well, that's cool because high school is cool. And and I'll have my freedom and I'll live on campus and I'll have my freedom.
That's the big one.
But yeah.
F is for freedom.
Oh man. Yeah, so I chose St. Mary's, not really having a plan, just that I was going to go to university because that's what you're supposed to do in order to be
Status
successful
quo, yeah.
in life.
And what?
there's no other option. Apparently.
There is no other option.
University or death at this point.
You know what's interesting too? Like I don't even recall
Looking into that options.
Well, no, I don't think I did that so much. But even like other options like community college
Right?
or like how about take a year off and work and figure that no, that wasn't really. And it's not like if I were to say that my parents would be like, no, you must do that. But it's just, you know, I was just kind of going through the stream with the other little fishies, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot of social pressures at play.
Well, it's really hard to go against the grain. I mean,
It is.
NSCC, which is where I ended up going after many years of university. If you asked me about NSCC when I was 18, I'd unfortunately tell you off because I thought NSCC would have been below me or something like that. And that was completely wrong. But like you said, it's just, we kind of just go with the status quo and it's difficult to go against it because sometimes you get ostracized, but eventually you become a pioneer.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I am forever thankful for NSCC.
Right.
Because really that's the birthplace of my career. And actually my aunt works at NSCC. I think she's been there for like 40 years.
At the waterfront?
No, in the Valley,
On the
King's
Valley?
Tech.
Okay, cool.
And I have an uncle who teaches at NSCC in Truro, in the social
You got us surrounded.
services. Oh yeah, yeah. But I didn't really learn about NSCC until after like my first year of university. I mean, I'm sure people have talked about it, but it didn't really sink into me until after my first year
A viable
at St.
option.
Mary's.
How was your first year?
Yeah, what did you take? You
I
may
don't
have mentioned
remember.
this.
No, I'm just joking. Sorry, Mom. I did go to class. I
Just
had a
not
lot of
the
fun.
class.
But overall, my experience was good at St. Mary's. I just wish that I had a better focus on a direction.
Yeah.
I took a lot of courses that, maybe not a lot, I took a few courses that just I don't understand why I took, i.e. philosophy. What the heck? Like, I remember
Anthropology
dreading
for me.
Yeah, anthropology too.
Astronomy.
You took an astronomy class?
Oh, yeah.
Well, what class
Was-
haven't you taken?
True.
This guy, got him, Mr. IQ, knows all the high schools. But yeah, no, university was good. Actually, the end of my semester, the winter semester, end of my first year, I got really sick. I got like this bad virus, and I had to go home, and like I lost a ton of weight. I missed my exams. Like, I just remember my doctor having to write these notes for me to write them at a later date, which I was like, can I just not write the exam? Like, clearly I am not well. But so it was kind of a shitty end to the first year, but I had some good roommates. I stayed in Rice. I think Rice 11, floor 11.
Maybe.
But,
I don't know. I went to
Never
school when
been.
I lived at off campus.
Yeah.
Shout out Rice, though.
Yeah. Hey, Rice.
Shout out to you.
Shout out to me. Yeah.
So,
out to Smee.
what did you take? Did you mention that?
Arts. Oh, yeah. I do know that part. I was like, I'll do
Yeah.
arts.
It's like, was she answering I don't
Dark
remember
arts.
to that question? Or it's like, I'll circle back.
Yeah. I did arts mainly because I was like, that's the closest thing to some of the courses that I enjoyed in high school. Like, the social sciences,
Yeah.
a little bit of
Philosophy.
law. Yeah, except philosophy. Although I think if I look back at some of like my material now, I probably would be a little bit interested. And because it would be, I guess I have more life experiences that would make you
And that's why it's
more
quite
interested.
curious. Or I think about it often anyway. Is now that I look back on school, we were talking about this like before the podcast, before we started recording, and I feel as though my current state would be a lot better for university now. But as you said, there was no option of taking a year off. It was like, you have to jump in right now.
Yeah.
You even suggested it a minute ago. Like, I wish I had more focus, right? So it's like, timing's everything with that, I feel. We
Absolutely.
always end up talking about school, so I'm not going to beat this one. But definitely feel as though would have benefited from going later in life, for sure.
Yeah.
There's just so much
Could have
all at
cruised through
once at such a young age. It's like, okay, you're 18 and you've developed all these relationships over so many years. Now we're going to, for the most part, not everyone, some people go to university in their hometown and live at home, but for the most part, we're going to put you in a new city center with brand new people you've never met before, with little to no supervision. When you've had supervision, the majority of people had supervision their whole life.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you've got to figure out what you want to do with the rest of your life and take courses, and it just doesn't seem feasible.
Then find your soulmate, buy a house. have
And
a
Disney can
baby.
put that all in 2.5 hours a movie, but
That's the social script that we've been given.
yeah.
Graduate, go to university, find your soulmate. Wait, maybe start your career, find your soulmate,
It's like interchangeable sometimes.
find a house, build a white picket fence around it, have children,
built
All
the
before you're
deck.
25.
work, retire, and then die.
Yeah. Play a few rounds of golf, and then Bob's your uncle.
Maybe if you
Or
get a
your
few
dad.
rounds. Or your Bob is my dad, yeah.
Bob is my uncle.
And Bob is your uncle.
There we go.
That works too.
It does work.
But yeah, and I think, especially, in the early years, like those are your such formative years, and that's kind of what you're told. And, if that's what your parents did, or that's what your teachers are telling you should do, and you just kind of like, okay, do like little robots, this is what we're gonna do.
This is
But
the right way to do it, right?
I feel like it's a little bit different nowadays.
Did you push against that at going into, second?
Well, yeah, I didn't return.
I had a feeling. I was like, we haven't really talked about second, third, or fourth.
No,
There were no second, third, or fourth.
not there. No.
Not at SMU.
No, so I took the year off because honestly, I was just like to my parents, I don't know what I'm doing there. Like, I know I'm supposed to get an arts degree, but I was really struggling to figure out, okay, what does that mean after I get my arts degree?
And what does it even mean to you?
Right. Nothing.
Right? Zilch.
Nothing. But no, it was really just a moment of, okay, I need to really sort my shit out and figure out, okay, the next steps. So I moved back home, which, you ever move out, go to university, or go somewhere out on your own and then move back home? And then the expectations stay the same. It's like, Mom,
Yeah.
I'm not 18 anymore. I'm 19, going on 20. I already lived on my own. I don't need a
Massive
curfew.
Like, I don't know if you know what I've been up to the last year, but
You don't.
It certainly wasn't peanut butter and ham sandwiches.
Yeah, I remember I'd like have a curfew, I think at like 12 or 1. And I came back. I'm like, well, that's going to change real quick.
That's
So
when
I got an apartment in Wolfville.
nice.
I'm like, see ya. Actually, it was an old chicken coop. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was
Sounds luxurious.
I can't believe
Not
I'm
a
saying
new
this so
chicken coop,
loud.
An old chicken coop.
An old chicken coop. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was made into like a bunch of different units. And I must say, Wolfville was like one of my favorite places to live in the valley.
Wolfville's great.
I've lived in Cambridge and Minas. Wolfville was great. But yeah, so I moved out. I worked. I actually, so as my dad was working Michelin, they had like a summer student program where you can, like, they'll hire your children to work for the summer. And it was a pretty sweet gig in terms of like pay, because you'd work shift work. So you'd work half of your summer and you'd make more money than minimum wage. And you would get like shift premiums for like working night shifts or on the weekends or things like that. But I hated the job. I mean, I even had an easy job in one of the easier shops, but I just hated the environment. Like, not the people. The people were wonderful, but the stinky, rubber, dirty, old, nasty air, like, and this smell would just like stain your body.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, I had a wardrobe for my work at Michelin. I had a wardrobe for outside of that. Yeah, I hate it. But I was very grateful because that job helped me pay off my first student loan. Yeah, so I worked there for a bit, and then I did some exploring into these, at the time it was called Human Services Program at NSCC, King's Tech. So I applied and enrolled in the following year. And I did the, so it's a 2-year course, diploma. And the first year was like the basic human services. And then you chose like what would you call it, concentration for the second year. And I chose addictions counseling. And then like halfway through that, I was like, I don't want to be an addictions counselor. It's not my thing.
So heavy.
Oh my goodness. I keep changing my mind on everything. But I mean, that's the only reason, that's the only way you can, discover what you like and what you don't like.
Keep changing it until something sticks.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I did
Gotta be okay with that.
I did finish it though. I did finish the year because I was like, this is going to be a foundation for whatever is next.
And did you have somewhat of an idea of what you were thinking of doing at that point?
No.
No.
Thank goodness for one of my teachers, Dale Grushi. I actually just saw her recently. She actually introduced me to the nonprofit world, which is where I spent my last 10 years in my career. And so she arranged an interview for me at the Annapolis Valley Work Center, which is a work activity program that helps individuals gain skills, employability skills for, or individuals who have identified barriers in developing skills so that they can go work and help them maintain employment. And we did like other things like life skills training. So I did an interview there, and then I got the work placement there. And I shadowed, she's a social worker by trade, but her role there was personal development counselor and facilitator. So supporting the individual with the life skill training, and the clients would also like get training in terms of like office skills or food service skills. What were some of the other ones? Maintenance, I believe. I've worked at a few, and there's different programs that the clients can choose from. So, but when I did my placement there, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. Like, you have, you know, the opportunity to like support someone in a place where, you know, they're, you know, maybe not feeling so sure about themselves or secure in their own skills, and, you know, helping them to develop skills to get them to where they need to be, and helping them realize their full potential, and then watching them go through that process, and then come graduation, like watching them graduate or like getting a job. Like those moments were like the best moments. And I was like, I want to do this for a while. So I finished my placement, graduated, and then at the time there wasn't a job open at that center. So then I served, worked at a Chinese restaurant.
Which one?
KO. KO? Yes.
Where's that?
Across from the Petro can Minas.
Oh.
But Double Dragon is my jam. Like,
Nice.
when I go home, yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah, Double Dragon.
Okay. Sure, Double Dragon.
Yeah, and I what else did I do? I did some other like little jobs, worked at Michelin again, and then just kind of stayed in contact with the organization. It was just like, hey,
Yeah.
if anything comes up, let me know. And so eventually something came up. Actually wasn't in that role. It was a pilot project that they were doing down in Bridgetown. I get Bridgewater and Bridgetown. Yeah. In Middleton. So then I did that because I was like, I got to get in there.
Yeah.
If I got to travel, you got to travel. You got to do what you got to do. And then eventually a job opened up at the center. And so I worked there for a couple of years. Until we moved.
So what were the kind of things with that work, with helping others that may have barriers? What were some of the things that really interest you or made you realize this is what I really want to do with my life?
I think one of the biggest things was that, so we talked a lot about like personal growth and, different challenges people would face. And I think I came to realize, what I came to realize was that, we're all the same, whether you're employed or unemployed. Like, we have very similar challenges in life. And it was, the development and growth of the client kind of helped me take an inward reflection on, my own, challenges and insecurities, especially being someone who is just straight out of school and, you feel like, I don't know anything or I don't know enough to do this stuff. But I've learned a lot from the clients that I've worked with then and even up until, not recently, but
I'm wondering, kind of a two-part question. Did working with those people kind of put things in perspective? And kind of the second part of that, did you kind of come to realize that maybe you were dealing with some of the same or similar barriers yourself? In terms of how you mentioned that you were able to look inward with this as well.
I don't know at that point in my career if I was able to identify that piece about the similar barriers. I think that definitely came later. I think like when you look at your journey, and you can't help but to look at the people who have helped guide that process. So whether it's like family, or in my case, some teachers who, brought to my level of consciousness, okay, here's, this could be a direction, or this could be something that, would be helpful for you. Or so it was the same kind of thing, like in my role as a personal development counselor, is, helping them to see things differently, or also helping them problem solve through some of the challenges and thinking of things I might not have thought of before. So very similar.
And different things that really anyone could use.
Yeah.
In everyday life.
Absolutely.
I thought you were leaning into talk there.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
So you said, sorry.
I was just going to say, we're continuously learning and evolving as individuals, and that's, part of, Life Out Loud is looking at those interactions and how is it contributing to me as an individual, and how is it, growth facilitating, and that's really what I want to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of reflection as well.
Yeah.
Love it. So you said you worked there for about 2.5, 3 years?
I think it was just shy of 2 years, actually.
Shy of 2.
Yeah, because I got married young, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
Congrats on the wedding.
Thank you. Yeah, that was over 10 years ago.
So yeah, you were at, what was this organization called? Just so we can...
Where I worked in the Valley?
Yeah.
PeopleWorks.
PeopleWorks. Shout out PeopleWorks.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful people.
And it works.
Who works?
No,
great staff. And I still actually keep in contact with a lot of my colleagues there.
Great spot. And what brought upon the exit or the transition?
So Chris and I got married, and we got married a year before we left there. And he got a job. He got offered a job in the city, and I was like, "Yeah, we're moving to the city, baby.
I'm going back.
Yeah, I'm going back.
I'm ready for
but
you
I'm not
this
going
time.
to Rice this time." Yeah. So we moved because of his work, and so then I was on EI for a year because I couldn't find a job right away.
Shout out government.
Thank you, the government of Nova Scotia. Although, okay, so here's another piece I forgot to mention. So that year when I was like off, like the year after university, I was trying to find a job that wasn't Michelin, and I actually got a job at Le Chateau. So when I left Le Chateau, went to the Valley, I said to my manager, like, it's not you, it's me. No, but I love Carol, and
shout out Carol.
But she said, if you're ever in the city and you need a job, let me know. But before I approached her, I was like, I'm gonna find a job in my field first, because I don't know if you've ever done retail before, but
Not great.
I hate retail. I mean, I enjoy working with people, but I just feel like people who work in retail often get shit on too much.
I've heard some horror stories.
And it gives me, working retail, I have a different appreciation and perspective for people who work in retail. It's a hard job.
Oh, yeah.
It's a hard job. And so, anyway.
You can become a punching bag for a lot of people,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. The customer is always right. No, the customer isn't always right, but I will treat you with respect.
Right.
And
But if you're wrong, I'm going to tell you.
yeah, exactly. But so I, after several job applications and, no openings, I reached out to Carol and said, I'm in the city. So, yeah, I started working at Le Chateau, and they had a new store opening up, and so I was hired as assistant manager. So during that time, I was still looking for work in the field, and then I got a job working as a personal development counselor and facilitator again. And that didn't last too long.
No.
Just wasn't a good fit for me, so I found another job with FutureWorks, and great organization. Yeah.
Sure, FutureWorks.
Hey, FutureWorks. Yeah, so I was there for 5 years.
Was that also in Dartmouth?
They're primarily based in Truro, like their head office is in Truro, but they have offices in East Hants, like Elmsdale, and there are satellite offices here in Burnside. And so I started in Elmsdale working there, and then I got a contract for Burnside, and so I worked, I think, most of my time in Burnside, which was nice. So I did the personal development with different projects. So they had programs like Hotel Works, which would focus on building skills, employability skills within the hotel service industry. Restaurant Works, which again, building skills in the restaurant. They had some other programs. They have CCA programs. There's a Warehouse Works program. You see the play on the words. Future Works, Hotel Works. Yeah. So I worked in the CCA program. Actually, I started there when I first came to Burnside. And I really enjoyed it. But I also realized that was the time when I started to get burned out. And 2 years into doing that role there, I had it was like 3. I had a conversation with the manager, and it was just like, I think it's almost time for a change. Like, this personal development stuff is wonderful, and I've been doing it for a while now, and I think I'm ready to move on soon. And I didn't really actually come to that realization until I was teaching a stress management course. So CCA, continuing care assistants, working in long-term care facilities, so oftentimes working alongside nurses and in like senior residential homes and in-home care and that sort of thing. So I worked with, my colleague was a nurse, and she did all the technical pieces, because I'm not going to teach personal care and all that other stuff, because I know nothing. I didn't do biology that well. My friend did that for me. So I supported the client with the personal growth stuff, the life skills. But there were also some components of the course that I taught. So stress management was one of them. And I remember talking about stress management and burnout as a caregiver, and the high rates of caregiver burnout, and like things to look out for. And so I'm like teaching this and looking at the slide, and I'm like, engaging the students in these conversations. And I just remember, like, in my head thinking and telling myself, like, you're such a fraud. Like, how can you stand up here and teach this and not live it yourself? So I had been under a lot of stress that I was kind of denying. So before halfway through my term or my contract there, I decided I was going to go back to school, university. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, because I kept talking about it, because I'm like, because people are like, oh, what's your degree? And I was like, not that I felt I had to finish it, but I was like, there's just something that is left undone, and I don't like that. And I want to finish. I want to get a degree in something that is, meaningful within my career. So, I looked at different programs that I could still, work full time, because I got to work, pay the mortgage, and then go to school, and Mount St. Vincent offered, the best for that. And so I enrolled to finish my degree.
Shout out to MSVU.
Yes.
Yeah, great school.
It is a great school. I really enjoyed
The
going
Mystics.
there. The Mystics.
Great school. Subpar mascot.
So I went back to school.
Yeah.
And I was doing more at work than I probably should have been doing, like taking stuff home. And like I have this problem, is like trying to make everything perfect. And I don't know if that stems from something in my childhood. I'm sure it does, actually, where it's just, you just want to be successful, right? And so, I just do more than what I probably need to do. And so doing my schoolwork, writing papers, taking home my work, my personal development work, trying to create new workshops or what have you, and doing all these things I didn't need to do. But that definitely contributed to some of the stress. And after I graduated, so that was in 2016, graduated with the degree, arts psychology concentration. In 2016 I graduated, and with honors, might I add. I'm very proud of that part.
Congratulations.
That is the difference, though. Going to university, like with minimal life experience. I mean, you have life experience up until like 18 or whatever. But like when you're working in a field and you're also studying within that field, it is a huge difference. Like I enjoyed my classes, even though a lot of them were hard, but it was like, okay, these are things I can apply or think about in terms of the work that I'm doing. And it just helped to cement the learning. So my second round of university was much better, and I ended up with great marks, so I can't complain about that. But
awesome.
So I graduated in 2016, and then I was like, oh, I need to do something else. Like, I need another project.
And did you keep that job? You're still there.
I'm still at FutureWorks.
Yeah, you're still at FutureWorks.
Yeah.
You're like, I can do it all. Don't worry about it.
Right, yeah. I need to do something else. So I actually did the...
Probably traveling back and forth to New Minas.
Working at the County Fair Mall.
Yes.
Yeah. Which barely exists now.
I know, every time we go, another shop closes.
I know, it's awful, and it's like a great space. But anyway, so I did the mental health first aid training because I was like, okay, this, I discovered that I really wanted to focus more on mental health because a large part of the clients, the majority of the clients that I worked with had mental health issues, and that was like one of the main barriers. And also, mental illness is quite prevalent within my own family. And so growing up, like, my mother lives with depression, and like I never really understood that as a teenager, and seeing some of the battles that she had and challenges that she had. And so, working with the clientele that I worked with and them sharing, some of their deepest, darkest moments with me, and me trying to support and guide them through some of those moments is like, this is something that needs more attention to. And of course, there's, we always hear about limited resources in different regions of the province. And so it's like, what can I do to kind of build on my skill set that can better serve the clients that I'm working with? And so I was supported by my employer to do the mental health first aid training, which is a national program certified 2-day training, so 12 hours in total, which helps individuals gain awareness around signs and symptoms of mental health problems, and also how to recognize when someone is developing a mental health problem or is in crisis. So, for example, if, a lot of people might not know how to support someone if they're having a panic attack, for example, how would you do that? Whereas we know how to support someone if they've sprained their ankle or, broke their arm, right? So mental health first aid focuses on variety of different or common mental health problems, substance use, mood-related disorders, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety and trauma-related disorders, and we also look at psychotic disorders. So, that was really a huge interest for me to take that training, and I was able to facilitate it within FutureWorks and with other organizations that outside of FutureWorks to bring more awareness around mental health and mental health issues. So that was great. I actually became even more interested in mental health, and it's like, I need a project to continue to push this message and to bring more awareness around mental health and mental health issues. And so I co-founded Shattered Silence Mental Health Support, which was a platform to engage people in conversations around mental health and mental health issues as a way of connecting people to minimize feelings of isolation and decrease the stigma surrounding mental health, and just talk about mental health in a big way, which took off pretty quickly, faster than I think we were prepared for, which, I mean, it's a good problem to have, but when you don't have like the time and the resources to fully commit to it, it became a full-time job. And I was also working my other full-time job.
Of course.
And
Traveling to New Minas every day.
Traveling to Minas, yeah. And I found myself just becoming more busy. And that became like, that's who I am. I'm that busy person. I'm always on the go. I'm always doing, always being social. Like, I don't know what I was trying to prove. I'm sure I will unfold that in a blog later. But, it had a major impact on like my marriage, because I wasn't in a space that was, that I was able to give to the people that, mean most to me, because I was, pouring out more in other areas of my life. And, so that became really challenging. And then even like friendships and, you start to see a decline when you're not, nurturing those relationships that mean the most to you. But I carry on, and I pretend that everything is just perfect and life is great. And, that was kind of the image that I really wanted to portray, that, I got my shit together. And it's very interesting too, because that was like the highlight of Chris's fighting career, my husband. And,
shout out, Chris.
Hey, Chris. Greek
what
assassin.
Wait, what's his handle?
The Greek assassin.
The Greek assassin.
Yeah.
Maybe not what up, baby. I don't want to come after a guy.
Yeah, it might choke you out. Get over your
You
naked
sound like
on
a
ya.
very nice individual.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, we're very happy to have your wife on.
I love it. Oh man, yeah. So he was at the the highlight of his career. He was fighting in the UFC, and I remember seeing many comments online about like, oh yeah, you guys are like the power couple and blah blah blah, and it was almost like, I don't know, like I was trying or striving, like we're striving to live up to that, but really like, no. Why do you want to strive to be the power couple? I mean, it's one thing to be an inspirational couple, I suppose, but when you're hiding your flaws and you're hiding challenges, and you're seeing this on the outside and you're trying to prove this on the outside, but inside it's not the same picture. That became a really heavy weight on me.
Absolutely, because I think it's It's hard enough when you're dealing with something, but then when from the outside societal pressures, you're trying to pretend that it's something else and everything's okay. That's just, extra weight.
Yeah.
When you're already dealing with it to begin with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I actually, I started to realize that there was a lot of things that I struggled with that I've been carrying for so long in terms of like maybe my own self-identity, not feeling good enough or just not achieving what I should have achieved by now. Those pressures, those internal babble that runs through your mind. And so I was, all these things are running through my head, and we've had our challenges in our marriage, and let me tell you, marriage is not easy. And we got married young. Like I was not 18. I was 23. We started dating when I was 18, and there was just a lot of stuff, I think, even within that I hadn't dealt with, like not really knowing like who I was as an individual. I mean, getting in a relationship at 18, and I'd been in a relationship in high school for a little bit until it was time to break up because you're going to university, right? And then jumping into another one, and it's like I really didn't have time alone. And I think I struggled with that for a while because it's like, you see your friends dating and they're doing all these things and like traveling and discovering who they are, and
soul searching.
Yeah, right. And so I didn't have that experience, and I think I told myself that I was missing out, and I think that affected our marriage, and and then on top of everything else, like the whole busyness and like being stressed out and overwhelmed with work and all that stuff, I was like, I need to go to therapy. I need to go to therapy and work on this marriage stuff or figure this out. But really what had happened was like therapy changed me as a person, which ultimately affected the marriage in a good way. So it was like that was missing. Like I just hadn't given myself the space, the time to really focus on me as an individual. Like, and even like through the marriage, it's like, oh, Chris's wife, or your Bobby and Darlene's daughter, you know what I mean? You start to subconsciously, I guess, take on that. You don't really think about who Martina is,
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot through therapy. And
was that a long process or gradual?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. Which eventually turned into like me having to work through like trying to manage all the different areas of my life and just feeling exhausted. I think so. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety last year, but obviously the symptoms had been exhibiting prior to that for a while. But yeah, therapy was a space for me to just talk and reflect and be present with myself, which was incredible. And then I, through that period was starting to get burned out in my work at FutureWorks. I left the personal development role, and I had a conversation with the CEO, and fortunately, they created a new position within the organization, like doing corporate training and diversity and inclusion training, which I thought, yeah, this is the answer. This is something new, and this is going to change my whole world. Everything is going to be perfect, and yeah, so it was a new position, and which required more work in terms of the development of different curriculum and such. And meanwhile, Shattered Silence is, taking off. We're doing lots of things, and I'm trying to find my way through this new role. And I'm also trying to unconsciously battle through some of the symptoms of the depression and anxiety, which, might I add, I was still trying to hide. So that takes extra energy to do that, just to avoid anyone seeing any cracks in you. So hard. You're gonna say
Exhausting.
something. Here's the thing, and this is why like I started writing and blogging about like my own experiences, because like even when I talked about the Burned Out Not Broken, which was a blog that I created or that I wrote when I was put off work for being burnt out. I was absolutely terrified to share that post, because I'm like, you know, what are people gonna think? And like, here Martina is like, you know, burnt out and stressed out and overwhelmed and having a breakdown, whereas like on Instagram, like she's living her best life. You know, like where did this come from, right? But that was part of my cover up. That was a part of how I protected myself from the world seeing me and you know who I truly was and the challenges that I was truly going through. And when I hit publish for that blog, you know, so many people, strangers, wrote, you know, I'm also struggling with balancing work and life and like doing all these things, and so many parts of your message resonated with me. And it's like, man, I thought I was the only one. Like, but then you think like, obviously you can't be the only one. There's billions of people in the world. But when you look out, like when you look at everyone else's life, you're like, I'm the only one, because no one else is struggling. But people probably thought that about me because like I'm just showing my highlight reel, you know, on social platforms and everything is great.
Yeah.
So I was put off work after like 3 attempts by my employer to have me think about taking some time off, which God love them, like my CEO, Randy Lindsay, and my manager, and Boyd, both of them were very supportive of, you know, me getting better, because, you know, they've had conversations about the work that I'm doing, and it wasn't about, you know, having good feedback or like, there's nothing wrong with the work that I was doing, but there was something that they were concerned about, and that was my well-being. And so I really appreciate the fact that they took the time to sit down and talk to me about that, because not many employers would do that. And so I am grateful. But when they encouraged me to take some time off, I was like, oh yeah, okay. No, I wasn't like that, actually. Let me rewind that. Because at first I was like, you know, we had a really good conversation, and my Randy mentioned something about, he made an analogy about a hamster on a wheel and like workaholics and how oftentimes they're avoiding addressing something that is important. And I was like, holy shit, it hit me. Like I could feel the tears welling up, and I'm like, don't you dare cry. Don't you let it out. Like that's what I'm telling myself in my head. Meanwhile, trying to like keep a straight face, but also like stay engaged in the conversation. Yeah. And yeah, it hit me, and I was like, that's me. I'm that hamster on the wheel, and I'm avoiding everything. Actually, I'm trying to find another wheel to run on at the same time. And so when I said, okay, you know what, maybe I should take some time off, I just remember going to my office, and I was mad. I was pissed off, actually. I was angry. Not at anybody, but at mytbe, because
You're looking at me. I don't know.
You look a little scared of it. I didn't do
scared
nothing.
Since we mentioned Chris. To be honest with you. Shout out Chris, man. You sound like an awesome guy.
He really is. He's a nice guy. I was upset with myself for you know, getting to that place where I could no longer manage. And so I took some time off, thinking, oh yeah, I'll be back in a couple weeks. Like, don't miss me, basically. But I wasn't back in a couple weeks. And actually my doctor put me off even longer. That's when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I was just at such a dark moment in my life. Like I had identified myself so much within my career. Like, I'm Martina, the personal development counselor. I'm Martina, Chris's wife. I'm Martina, Bobby. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I really didn't know who I was as an individual and my purpose in life. I think I struggled with that, even though like I would maybe think that this was it or that was it. But when you lose that major piece, I was really, really lost, actually. And I remember, this is the scrolling part that I wanted to get to. I was scrolling on Instagram. Okay, never do that when you're feeling sorry for yourself. Like, that is the worst place to be. But I was just like,
Pity
look
party.
at everyone is so happy. And I'm like, I was in bed for weeks. And like, I couldn't get out of bed. Like, to go shower was a major task.
Yeah.
And put on a new pair of pajamas. Like, that was it for the day. And anyway, I remember scrolling through Instagram, and I saw a picture of a young girl who was terminally ill, and she was at the IWK, and she had been granted a wish, and it was she received a puppy. And I remember looking at the picture and looking at her and her frail body with this puppy on her lap, and I just thought, man, like, what does it feel like? What is it like? Like, what are the thoughts that go through your mind when you know that death is approaching? Like, I can't even imagine. And I learned that she had passed later on, and I thought, oh, that was a defining moment, because I'm like, man, I've been given another day. I woke up today, and you need to figure out what you want to do with the time that you have left on this earth. And so for me, it was like, that's it. What am I going to do with the time that I have now and the time that I have left? And, I started to come around in terms of, just trying to focus on like some positive things, I would, start listening to inspirational messages, and just to kind of get myself back around again. Even my husband, like, God love Chris. I remember one day he like opened up the curtains. It was like late afternoon. I was in bed all day, and it was like dark, and like opened the curtains, and it's like, oh, the light, like, oh, the outdoors. Like, that's what life is. And it's like, you have a light to shine. You're going through this struggle now, and I've had a lot of pain that I didn't really work through and address. But what I've come to realize is that there is purpose in our pain, and that purpose is life out loud. And that's really how it developed, because it was through my blogs and just sharing real life things that impact us, and how it impacts our mental health and our well-being, and just heightening that awareness for people to kind of be empowered again, and encouraged to live life. And so that's why it's important to live life out loud, because it connects us as humanity. And that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm here to do.
That was incredible.
I feel like that was
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah, honestly, that you hit all the points there, I would have to say. And we can obviously tell, I'll speak for Ben, that how much...
I don't have words right now.
I know.
Fighting back tears.
How much this truly means to you, and it's pretty evident that you found your path in life.
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? Even if this is not the path, I don't know. I haven't even launched yet. But it is part of the journey, and that's the piece that I'm like, all these little things that happen in our life from the time we're born right up to where we are now. It's like, these are moments that have paved the journey, and has really created that sense that it's not always going to be great moments. Life isn't about all the happy times and always being positive and optimistic. I think those moments that aren't so great are the ones that create strength and endurance and perseverance and ultimately resiliency. And so, I take a lot away from the things that, I've gone through throughout my life. And I used to, like, even when I was off work for being burnt out, I was like, why me? Why does this have to happen to me, of all people? Like, I'm trying to help others. And it was like, yeah, but you're not helping yourself. So God was like, you're going to step back. I'm going to pull you away from it. And you're going to take some time and you're going to start filling up your cup again, because you have overpoured. You're overdrawn. Mm-hmm. And I don't like being in deficit.
No.
It sucks.
No, we got to fill the cup back up.
You got to fill it up. And you know what? You got to continuously fill it up. So self-care is like a major area of work for me. And I got to keep reminding myself that, especially in developing a business. Hello. I've never done this before, but I would think that I would have to work around the clock to get things done. And, being on the heels of that whole experience with stress and burnout, I'm like, I'm very sensitive to it. So it's like shutting off notifications, no more emails past a certain time. You have to be mindful and conscious of, making sure you're setting those boundaries.
Got to take care of you.
You got to because if you don't.
How are you going to take care of others?
Thank you.
Right. We're right there with you.
Yeah.
So why don't we get into Life Out Loud a bit? Life
Out Loud. Yeah. So Life Out Loud, mental health consulting and creatives, that's the registered business name. Mm-hmm. And people will say, "Oh, well, what does creatives mean?" I'm starting to learn that.
Whatever we want it to mean. It's our business. Shut up.
Yeah. So, Life Out Loud basically is like a 2-section business. So the consulting piece would be the mental health first aid training that I do, also working with employers to promote mental wellness at work and psychological health in the workplace, and other info sessions, lunch and learns, guest speaking opportunities, which I've been grateful to be exposed in doing that lately. Thank you, NSCC.
NSCC.
Yeah, they've been a wonderful, wonderful support for me and my business.
I think they come up like every second or third.
Honestly, not even exaggerating.
Oh,
not
really?
Not exaggerating, yeah. It comes up quite often.
Either someone went or had some sort of experience with the college.
Even yourself.
Big things.
It just goes to show that experiential learning is powerful. Yeah, definitely. And they're a great college. So the consulting piece would be that realm, and then the creatives, which would be like blogs and.
I love how you just said creatives.
Yeah, why do you say that?
It was just like, it was fun.
Yeah.
And the creatives. Here we go. What are the creatives?
The consulting is fun too. The creatives is like, I love writing, and I use writing a lot, like throughout my healing process, and it just helps me to kind of look at things in life in a different perspective, a different way, and why not share that with the world if it can help one person,
Right. Hey, that's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of it, and also, okay, want to know another secret?
Here we go.
More than the last
we were promised another one, so yeah.
I am also planning to do a podcast.
Hey-o. The Life Out Loud podcast. Or I shouldn't call it by anything yet. Is that what it's going to be called?
Well, there is a Life Out Loud podcast.
There is a Life Out Loud podcast.
Damn, there is too. I looked that up today.
I searched that today as well.
Yeah, but
we were all over it.
I have another idea for the podcast. Actually, I already have it. Yeah.
Can you tell us?
Can I? I haven't revealed it to anyone.
Don't worry about it then.
Okay, no.
We don't want
I got to keep it, but
keep it a surprise.
It is
big things are happening.
Yeah. Cool. So, really what I want to do, I love what you guys are doing and like bringing people's stories to light. What I want to focus on is like just talking about life and our interactions with the world around us, with one another, and more importantly within ourselves, as a way of like just elevating our consciousness and awareness around how these things impact our mental health and our well-being and our wellness. So
technology is better than ever. Why don't we use it for good?
For good,
Right. And
absolutely.
especially with the podcast, low barriers to entry. You've got a great voice, if I do say so myself.
Excellent.
Do
Very
I?
soothing.
Oh yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
Should I sing you a lullaby?
I'm here.
And we're back with Martina. It's 11 o'clock and
Down in the valley.
news is over.
Whiskey River.
You did. You jumped into the future of Life Out Loud a bit with the podcast. Is there any other future plans you have lined up
There are.
that you can delve into a bit?
Not yet.
Looks like we're gonna have
Maybe
to have you on again.
Maybe
Yeah.
when you come back.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I'm working on right now on the creative leg of the business. But I just really, I just want to have conversations with people in our community and talk about all these different things and aspects of life that really are important pieces of this journey. And connection is a big thing for me too.
Yeah.
I feel like, with all the technology that people think we're more connected, which we are in certain aspects, but I feel like we're disconnecting from ourselves.
This is
and yeah,
right?
yeah,
This is a real connection, right? None of us have looked at our phones. We've glanced at that to make sure it's still recording. But I think
I don't even know where my
we
phone
lose
is.
sight of these real conversations. I mean, you think of our ancestry, our heritage as human beings. It's storytelling. It's sitting around with
Yeah.
one another and sharing things. And we're still doing that in a way, but now we're using a tool. So we've removed ourselves one step from that process.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're kind of seeing the residual effect of that.
yeah.
Very
And there's
well said.
yeah.
Try.
That's
Try more often.
But no, you're absolutely right. And I think it is so easy to be distracted. And we are in this culture of busyness, which I absolutely hate. I hate it. And like,
We're racing to an
I'm a
invisible
part of
finish
it.
line.
But it's like, I've got an awareness, so I need to start making moves that I can strategically move away from going in that stream again,
Yeah,
with
busy,
the rest
busy,
of
busy.
society. Yeah. And it's almost like, do you find that even as entrepreneurs, like that hustle movement, I hate that too. Hustle equals success.
You gotta grind.
No, damn well it doesn't.
I tell
Working
you, I don't
hard
watch
is
Gary
important.
Vee anymore. I mean,
Oh, no.
God love you, Gary, but it's just a lot sometimes. Yeah, it's who called it? Tim Foster, former guest of ours,
Just
called
how
it
I talk.
hustle porn.
Hustle porn.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. But
Shout out Tim.
Shout out to me. So, as you mentioned, you have some future plans with
do.
Life Out Loud with the podcast, but
yeah.
when's the launch date?
Well, if I tell you,
I have to kill you.
it's just gonna happen. And this is part of my own life lesson, if you will. Like, I will try and have everything perfected before I expose something. And you know what? I'm telling myself this message that everything will not be perfected. Everything will not be together, and everything will not be done to share your website, to share your message, to share what your business is. And that's okay. I'm totally fine with that.
That's good. I think a lot of our guests, or probably all of them, flexibility has been a big thing, and not being complacent, and if taking the punches as they come, and getting back up and getting stronger and learning from that.
Yeah.
It's a big thing.
Yeah. I think I would say I've come a long way in terms of like when things don't work out, not having a tantrum about it. And that's also part of my whole journey is that, and there was a quote by Lauryn Hill, and she says, you can't plan life, all you can do is be available for it. And I was like, when I read that quote, I was like, that's it. that is it, because I am such a planner and everything has to be done by the plan and by the book and by blah, 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 blah. And it's like, but when things don't actually work that way, because this is life and life doesn't work that way, you know, what are you going to do? Now you feel like you're out of control. And that sucks. That's a terrible feeling. And yes, there's still times where you're going to feel out of control, but then it's like, okay, but what can you do? What do you have power over right now?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I choose to focus on.
Control
what's within my control. Yeah.
And shit happens. I mean,
all the time. Yeah.
What can you do?
It's called life.
It's called life out loud.
That's right. Life out loud.
Nice segue, dog.
I try. Okay, I think we'll call her there.
Yeah.
That was absolutely incredible conversation, Martina. We really appreciate you stopping by and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I love chatting with you guys. Yeah.
That's a great combo.
This was fun.
Your journey is exceptional. We were very happy to take it in and share it with everyone else. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
You're an incredible human.
Oh.
You lived up to the hype.
No, but
Air hug.
air hug, yes.
I'll see you
Around the
doing
mic.
And recognize
That
that
was
there
the
is a
mic.
mic.
That was the air.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys. And I love what you're doing with Brand New View, because like just listening and reading like the posts from other entrepreneurs in the community, it's like, this is so cool. Like, we should just rally everyone together and do something. But I love the whole concept of, you know, moving from one career and transitioning into, you know, entrepreneurship, especially because it can be a very scary thing. Yeah, and I just love how you're highlighting people's journeys.
That. Shout out Brand New View.
Yeah, shout out to Brand New View.
All right, folks. Once again, appreciate you stopping by, Martina. I'm sure listeners did just as much as us, if not more. As I bob my head back and forth, we will see you next week, folks. For Brand New View, I'm Mark Boudreau.
I'm Ben Brammer. Peace.
With the same old blues. I was the same old